I start with hormones, and correcting hormones to youthful levels actually heals the gut. One of the
Oh,
symptoms
okay.
that a lot of people don't know is I'm bloated, I have GERD, I'm constipated or have diarrhea. So that's a menopausal symptom, as is a foggy brain. Correcting the hormones back to youthful levels, individualizing with each patient, so many symptoms disappear.
This is such a fantastic episode because I reached out to Dr. Prudence Hall of the Hall Center about a year ago. In fact, it was on December 19th, 2023. And I hadn't realized at the time that she had a podcast agent. And lo and behold, 6 months later, that agent reached out to me recommending Dr. Prudence Hall to be a guest on my podcast. I had forgotten to follow up because I figured Dr. Prudence Hall is a leader in hormone health. And she's one of the first people I ever encountered when I entered into this arena in my studies to become a menopause doula, and then on to further research and a learning journey through menopause education. But here we were in June of 2020, and they were reaching out to me. That kind of speaks volumes of the reach that my podcast is getting. But I've always said, if I can impact the life of one person, I've done my job. But in this conversation, I'm really hoping to reach out to many of you to talk about the importance of regenerative medicine approach. And Dr. Prudence Hall is definitely a leader in this field of functional medicine. In our conversation, Dr. Prudence Hall shared her expertise in understanding root causes, particularly imbalancing of hormones, emphasizing the importance of addressing those root causes so that we can not only eliminate disease, but restore hormones to youthful levels. I never heard that before, but you listen to this episode and it makes so much sense. Dr. Hall also has an expertise in understanding the intricate relationship that hormones have on our gut health, explaining that estrogen loss has an increase in inflammation and stress on the body, and that this will also lead to an impact on thyroid and adrenal glands. Dr. Hall stresses the importance of getting thyroid testing and getting our testosterone levels checked. Low testosterone has an impact on our muscle mass, our bone density, our libido, of course, but also our confidence. And she emphasized the significance of maintaining these healthy hormone levels through the benefits of, yes, bioidentical hormone therapy, but also lifestyle choices. I can speak truthfully for myself. Confidence, my sense of place in this world took a nosedive. But the more I learn, the more empowered I feel to approach my doctor and have these conversations, which Dr. Hall will get into in this episode. But before we do that, here's something you should know about Dr. Prudence Hall. She is the medical director and founder of the Hall Center, linked in the show notes, which is a holistic medical center specializing in women's health, detox, and weight loss. She started as a traditional gynecological surgeon and transitioned her career to focus on regenerative and integrated medicine. Recognizing the urgent need to tackle stubborn aging symptoms, she focuses on root causes to promote optimal health without relying on pharmaceuticals. Dr. Hall is passionate about guiding clients to attain peak well-being to proactively ward off the expected decline we experience with aging. One of the ways that I stumbled across Dr. Prudence Hall was her free book, a free download. It's called Radiant Again and Forever. Each chapter of Radiant Again and Forever follows a woman's story, and you'll be surprised who inspired Dr. Prudence Hall to pursue writing this book in the first place. Stay tuned and you'll learn more. Oh my goodness, Dr. Prudence Hall, I am thrilled to have you here. I hold you in the highest regard as one of the leaders in menopausal health, hormone health, and really helping us understand our bodies in such a way that we are empowered again to make some incredible health choices so we can have that life of radiance and vitality that we deserve. And so you're going to tell us how it's done. But first and foremost, welcome.
Thank you so much. What a joy to be here. We're going to have fun.
I always like to share a person's backstory because after 20 plus years in corporate PR and communications, I always know there's a story in somebody's journey
that helps us connect the dots and resonates with us so that we can better understand and maybe find little gems of healing in our own journey. So what inspired you to open the Hall Center, and tell us all about that, and then go on to write the Radiant Again and Forever, and then develop your 10-week menopausal breakthrough program? So much.
That's 4 questions here.
I've had media training in my background. Can you tell?
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay, so I was at the university at UC Santa Cruz during the women's movement. And I started thinking, I was raised in a family of 4 girls and then my youngest brother. And we experienced so much change during that period. Women can be powerful. We can help other women. And I started thinking about, what am I passionate about? And it was really one time when I was in France, dancing on the table, slightly intoxicated at New Year's.
I'll relate.
This is when I was like 18. And I realized I know there's something about women doctors who can help women not to be over-talked and ignored or lectured to, all these things that were so prevalent at the time and when I was really just starting the university. So I knew at that moment that I would be a doctor. And I knew not that I would be a doctor, that I would be a gynecologist. And I would help other women to, in a way, self-actualize, or maybe at a lower level, just to become more aware of how to manage their health and how to talk to doctors, and that they were the power person on the team. It wasn't the doctor, it was them, and they know their bodies. I always tell patients, you know your body so much better than me. Tell me more about it. How does it function? And so I went through Keck School of Medicine, USC, and I did my residency right at the county hospital in the poorest, with the poorest, most needy women, who taught me so much. And they taught me morality, because when you're in that situation where you can just do surgery on everyone, which is pretty much what a lot of the residents would do, I learned that is immoral to operate on anyone that you just cannot really help and who really needs this surgery. And so in that situation, the respect for these women who were really coming to us at last resort or really in need, and to show up as someone who was gonna give it our best and really try it. So I came out of that residency program feeling that it wasn't an inflation of who I was, but just this real assuredness that I had been there in the middle of the night doing things all alone. The attendings were 20 minutes away, and that I could handle anything. Bowel eviscerations after pregnancy terminations and just terrible things. And then I started my private practice, and I realized, oh my God, I know nothing about menopause. These women are trying, they are losing their sense of self. They are gaining 30, 40, 50 pounds, and they start loathing themselves. And oh my God. And I just didn't have any tools. I had the tools I was taught. Use Premarin. That's the pregnant mare's urine. Yeah. See him in a year. Use Provera, which is a carcinogen. Yeah. So it was really a wake-up call for me. It's, oh my God. My patients were saying, Prudence, please learn something different.
Yes.
And I did. I took that on. They inspired me.
Oh, that's incredible. So I would imagine you've watched this whole Women's Health Initiative unfold right before your very eyes, and saw the disservice that we were doing to women and the inappropriate ceasing of that study that never really got off its foot and was doomed for failure from the very beginning. How did that translate into your training and made you take an approach that there's more to learning than I need to do in terms of the hormone health, and better understand what hormone therapy can do for the quality of life that women deserve?
Yeah. So Premarin was created in the mid-40s. And it was hailed as a way for women to be healthy and strong and stop having hot flashes. And I would say that maybe 20% of the time that was a very effective strategy. Most of the time it was not an effective strategy. That's what I was taught at USC, to use Premarin. And when that Women's Health Initiative came out in 2001, I hadn't used Premarin since 1983. So I had really gone deep into the bioidentical hormones. I was married to a Frenchman at the time, and I was going back and forth between France and Germany and the United States. And I understood that they were doing something different, and they were just a little bit ahead of us. So I started bringing hormones back that are bioidentical hormones, are exactly the same hormones that we have. We have them, you have them, we all have the same hormones. And of course, the difference is the sensitivity that we have to our hormones and the levels that we need to not only get rid of symptoms, but to help prevent future diseases. That's very different and unique. So it's a personalized style of medicine that I started doing, that you are not like me, are not like this body, like that body. So what does this body need? How do you metabolize the hormones? And what's the delivery method? I have multiple delivery methods for every hormone, and what might be best for you. And it just was such a learning curve to realize that we're each unique. We each detoxify in different ways. And I started doing genetics panels on women. Well, Jeff Bland came into our field. He's the father of functional medicine, really a luminary in terms of our field, in terms of regenerative medicine, functional medicine, get to the core root cause of the problem. Don't paint the leaves on the tree green when the tree is dying. Find out what are the core root causes of that problem and then deal with that. So when I met Jeff, it's been so many years ago. I was one of, I went up to Gigs Harvard. I think I was one of 30 people to learn functional medicine in the beginning. And it changed the way that I practice. Everything that I'd learned about medicine started coming down into, well, what are the real causes of heart disease? What are the real causes of dementia? And that blew my practice in the way I thought wide open. So that's, maybe you could get Jeff Bland on to talk. He would be one of
something. Okay.
Oh, you
note to self, email Jeff tonight.
Uh-huh.
That be something. I really excited about functional medicine, and if I were to do it all over again, maybe I'd go back to school. But I'd rather just share the stories and connect the dots for everybody else. When it comes to functional medicine, first of all, we'll explain to the listeners what that is, in case nobody out there is, or some of our listeners are not fully understanding what that is, because quite frankly, it's uncommon to go to your regular GP and be unpacking some of the things. Like, I have a sore thumb, it could be your GI tract is messed up. That just doesn't happen. So explain to us, bring us a step back to understand what functional medicine is all about.
So functional medicine identifies the core causes of diseases.
Okay.
It also brings the whole genetic component into it. Now, only 10% of diseases are actually genetic, have their basis in genes. 90% of diseases that arise are lifestyle and other things. So when I look at the major core root causes of most diseases, it's going to be imbalanced hormones.
Okay.
That's why at menopause, heart disease catches up, because we lose our estrogen. That's why we start developing dementia really at quite a young age, because we've lost our estrogen and our other hormones start to decline very rapidly in menopause. And that's why we gain weight. So you start looking at these causes. So imbalanced hormones, inflammation, stress, unremitting or recurrent stress that's quite severe, and then all the lifestyles, like how's the quality of your sleep? What are you eating? Is it plant-based and healthy? All the lifestyles, exercise.
Yeah.
So exercise, sleep, your thoughts tremendously. That's an inside job. That is, what are your thoughts happening? Because thoughts become realities, become, our life. And then toxicity. So if you want to say what causes heart disease, number one, menopause, because heart disease catches up with men at menopause. Number two, it would be inflammation. You look at all the bone loss based in inflammation, fibroids and ovarian cysts based in inflammation, cancer. 90% of cancers have inflammation, is a forward process, a forward feeding process. So you start looking at the different causes that cause all these diseases that arise or that come out of or accompany menopause. And you start just saying, just go to those core root causes, change those, get rid of those, ameliorate those, and the diseases disappear. So it's like you have a leak in the house, a leak in the roof, and you have this mold in the wall. So you take everything down to the studs and redo it and everything, and the floors and everything. Then the next rain comes and everything starts all over again. Fix the roof. Get to the core root causes.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Now, is it difficult when you're practicing at the Hall Center, because you have this structure to follow and you almost can trace back, but is it difficult for the clients that come to see you to better understand the methodology that you're going to use to say, in order to get to the root cause, we're going to go explore something that you would never imagine, say, what's on your plate, what you're eating for food. And then
Well, I think most patients who see me know that my life is about hormones, but they might not know that I know a whole lot about toxicity in the gut and all this stuff about diet and lifestyle. This is all part of the essential core root causes of diseases. So found over the years that healing the gut and working on the gut takes a lot of time, and people generally don't feel the aha moment of, oh my God, I have my life back. So I start with hormones, and correcting hormones to youthful levels actually heals the gut. One of the symptoms that a lot of people don't know is I'm bloated, I have GERD, I'm constipated or have diarrhea. So that's a menopausal symptom, as is a foggy brain. Correcting the hormones back to youthful levels, individualizing with each patient, so many symptoms disappear. And so many things become healed. And doing a nice gut panel and making sure that the microbiome, the microbiome is still quite unknown, but making sure that there's no parasites in your digestion, your food, and that you're on probiotics if you need them, and you're eating the right, you've eliminated the foods that need to be eliminated. Like in functional medicine with Dr. Bland, they started just by doing diet. They're just going to eliminate gluten, dairy, eggs, corn, nightshades, and some of these basic things, soy. And oh my God, people just they didn't need anything else. They got well just with that alone. Diet is very important in this whole process.
Explain when our hormones, our estrogen starts to egress and the role that it plays. We don't often think that the sex hormone would have any bearing on the gut, but in fact, it has a significant. So explain to us what that relationship is, and then what is happening to the gut as a natural byproduct of estrogen egress.
Let's couch this in saying that hormones are our body's software.
Okay.
So they tell the body what to do. It beats our heart. The hormones beat our heart. They maintain our blood pressure. So when somebody has, for example, an adrenal burnout or adrenal deficiency of their fight and flight stress hormones, they won't be able to maintain their blood pressure. They get dizzy and they're tired. And so hormones really do the most essential activities that the body needs to do. It creates hunger, and it creates, good thoughts, the molecules of emotions. So when you start looking at that, estrogen has receptors in almost every cell in the body. The brain, big receptors, the breast, the GI tract, the bones, the muscle mass. When you lose your estrogen, up goes inflammation, so the gut gets more inflamed. Up goes stress. So here you are with this gut that's already inflamed and you're already stressed, and oh my God, like that. And then up goes sugar, causes diabetes and prediabetes, type 2 insulin resistance. And so this sugar that's just pouring into the bloodstream, it damages the brain, it damages the gut. High sugar, damaging. So the gut just can't function. Too much stuff is not functioning. You need, the cells are normally like this, and they become hyperpermeable. We call that leaky gut in layman's. So things can go through into the bloodstream that normally wouldn't be able to go through this tight membrane, and the membrane becomes very leaky, and things go into the bloodstream that are inflammatory, and then that comes back and affects the gut.
The blood-brain barrier that you hear spoken of, this is what's happening here. And hence why it impacts our moods, our thoughts. Menopausal women will feel more, not just a brain fog and forgetfulness, but a bit of the anger and rage.
And Dale Bredesen several times told me personally, this is a number of years ago, but Prudence, keep giving women estrogen. It is so important for the brain. It is so important in terms of preventing Alzheimer's disease and, of course, depression and things like that, but also Parkinson's, all the neurodegenerative diseases. And I have found that to be absolutely true, that women come in saying, I think I'm getting demented and I'm going on Adderall and I'm on an antidepressant. And it's like the core root cause has not been addressed. It's not that the brain is suddenly going crazy and becoming demented. It's that it's not getting the information, hormone information, food information that it needs. So you correct that, brain clears up. It's so beautiful to see us come back alive.
With the three-pronged approach of looking at inflammation, lifestyle, toxicity, and then the hormone balances, is it normal then at the Hall Center and the work that you do that the client can almost anticipate some kind of hormone replacement, an individualized approach of an estrogen replacement or an estrogen replenishment, if you will be prescribed?
Yes, not only that, but at the first visit, I look at 5 different markers for the thyroid. I look at the free T3, which is free T4, the TSH, which is only 60% accurate in terms of diagnosing thyroid disease. Plus, I look at the thyroid antibodies to see if somebody has an autoimmunity of their thyroid gland, plus the reverse T3. And the thyroid gland is very subtle. If I miss the thyroid gland and only correct the ovarian hormones, the patient will probably be, well, probably 50% better. But then you also look at the adrenal glands that sit right back on the kidneys, right back here. And I look at the sugar and the damage in the body due to sugar. That's called the hemoglobin A1C.
Okay.
And also look at the D3, sunshine hormone.
Yeah.
The skin is a huge endocrine gland just on the outside of us, making all this D3 that decreases prostate cancer, colon cancer, dementia, improves our immunity, and helps with depression.
And
It's
it's
amazing.
a hormone, not we think of it as just a vitamin, a mineral, but it's an actual hormone that the body needs to be productive.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So
Yes.
here I am in Vancouver Island, way north of Santa Monica. I would love to be able to walk into the Hall Center and get full on treatment, but that's not possible. So you cater to a whole group of clientele, probably worldwide, through your book. And what amazing insights into the book that you get online, the Radiant Again and Forever. But I like the fact that you can self-diagnose just from the tools that you explain to us a little bit more about what's happening there and how can women feel more empowered by being able to have that, cultivate that level of awareness where they can really lean into the body and diagnose what's going on and be able to make the choices thereafter to improve their health.
Well, Suzanne Summers came up to me one day and she said, Prudence, you're writing this book. I was
Oh,
like, Suzanne, sure. She said, oh my God, come on, just write it. And she said, just use a different woman for each chapter, which I did. And so women have come to me too many times saying, I think I'm going crazy. I think I'm really sick. I must have cancer. And of course, we investigate whether they do or not. But, and when you read, for example, the first chapter, it's a real woman, almost verbatim, her story, and how she was loathing herself and gaining 50 pounds, and her husband, she was sure was going to leave her, and just all these things that women, also a mirror of what so many women have told me over the years. And I see some of the most difficult cases of menopause probably in the world. But aside from that, I see all kinds of just regular old menopause where people feel these things and feel like they're going crazy or that their body's going crazy. And I want women to be able to identify themselves in these stories and then to have hormone levels done and meet with a good practitioner who can help them determine, is this really a hormone deficiency or is it coming from something else like diet or lack of sleep or these kind of things or outside situations that are extremely difficult. So I identify what's outside of us and what's inside of us. And we can really change the outside. Let's say it's another person. That would be, we can change ourselves and how we react to that person, but we can change a lot of things about what's inside of us for sure. We have control over that. And I want women to see that they might have thyroid problems. You know how many people tell me, I've seen 3 doctors and I know I have a thyroid problem, and they all say I don't have a thyroid problem. They freaking have a thyroid problem, 100%. And it's subtle, and you have to be looking, putting the symptoms together with the different possibilities and looking at the different levels. I look with urine as well as I start with blood. But then I do Jonathan Wright's Meridian Valley 24-hour urine. He's a wonderful pioneer in the field. Jonathan Wright up in Seattle, Tacoma, I think he is. But there are different ways. Saliva with ZRT is actually a pretty good way of looking at it too. But I start with blood, And then I start looking at the urine. Well, how's everybody metabolizing these things? How are we breaking down the estrogen? And what about all the androgens, not just the testosterone? So looking at these different tools. And the last 3 chapters of my book are really what my patients inspired me to write, because they come to me, and many times they tell me that I'm one of their last solutions and or their last hope. And then they get their life back. They reclaim those parts of themselves that they were too tired to express, or too depressed, or too angry to really approach. And then what these women did, that's the last 3 chapters of the book, writing books and starting orphanages and climbing mountains and becoming CEOs of their own business and starting, it's just so exciting to see life be expressed in each person.
Yeah.
I just love that. I want that for everyone, to be able to follow their passion. Joseph Campbell, follow that passion and live passionately.
Absolutely.
Like someone else wants you to be, like you want yourself to be, and how you know the best expression of yourself is.
Step into that power. Yes. I'm glad you brought that up. I am a true believer, and I say this time and again on my episodes. It's a gift, menopause, when the hormones fluctuate, because that veil of protection, if you will, from the neuroprotective properties to the anti-inflammatory properties, and they start shifting, and all of a sudden all these issues come up, and it's the opportunity for us to finally get wise and address them and do that little clearinghouse, so that we can step into the better version of ourselves that we're always meant to be. I fully 100% believe that to be true. And you're just reinforcing it with everything you say. I have always believed, though, that we all have to advocate on our own behalf, take agency over menopause, and we won't always have Dr. Prudence Hall in our back pocket, and how we wish we could, although we do have your book. But for a woman to be able to say, I've heard this podcast, for example, to say, I've sat down, I listened to this episode, or I'm starting to better understand what's happening in my body. Now I want to go and get those tests. What's the best approach when they get that response from their doctor? Oh, you're imagining things. Oh, I think SSRIs, antidepressants, will solve your problem. No, you're too young for menopause.
Oh my gosh.
And she's
That
in her
happens all the
powers.
time.
It does. And her power is literally taken away. So what would be something that she can do to advocate on her behalf?
Yeah. So this is a really important issue that you're opening up. How do we have the inner knowledge or the confidence for us to speak up, especially when our hormones are low? Because testosterone, for example, is a very important hormone that gives us confidence and that gives us power. And in menopause, and also with adrenal deficiency, testosterone will decrease a lot. So first of all, number one, it's your body, and you're expressing what your body is telling you and what's happening to your body. If someone doesn't listen, you can try to wake them up. You can say, you can look at them and you can say, doctor, this is happening to me.
Right.
I think I'm in menopause. I don't care that I'm 34. I think I'm in menopause. I need to have my hormones checked. And you really come in a kind way and say, I'm coming to you and I'm requesting this. Oh, you're too young. Are you saying that you will not measure my hormones? I need my hormones measured. And more doctors are waking up. They only have 10 minutes to spend with a patient, and they don't have enough time to really get into what's happening really with her, but they need to comply. And if they don't comply, and if somebody says your thyroid is fine and you have 25 symptoms of low thyroid, that's really a problem. There's a wonderful symptom questionnaire that I use.
Okay.
And it's a thyroid questionnaire. It's also for adrenals. And if you score more than 8 on the thyroid questionnaire, most likely you have a thyroid deficiency problem. So symptoms that happen with low thyroid is you feel less joy, sometimes quite depressed, you gain weight or you can't lose your weight, your skin is dry, generally you have more constipation, you're finding that you're taking more magnesium. That's great for constipation, by the way. You're sleeping too much, you're losing your hair, it's becoming thinner, you're losing the outer edge of your eyebrow. That's the Hertog sign, Terry Hertog. Mwah! We all love Terry Hertog. Right?
Wow. Okay.
So you feel cracking heels, heavy periods. This is a big one for younger women, and thyroid deficiencies can happen at any age. So really heavy periods. And if I have these heavy periods the last 7 days and I'm bleeding terribly. Now, things you can do for your thyroid is you can take iodine in Crow's Lugol's iodine or drops. You take 3 to 5 drops in a little bit of water. You can have 3 or 4 Brazil nuts that contain selenium. You can make sure that you're not eating white bread that has bromine and all these kind of things in it that block thyroid. And you can just be aware that one of the most important markers for your thyroid is free T3. So it's free T3. And you can ask your doctor to order that. That's more important than the TSH, which is only accurate 60% of the time. And you want your free T3 to be 3.1 or 3.2 and above. So all the time, women will come in with a normal TSH. Their T3 will be 2.4, and they have 25 symptoms of having low thyroid. And I always try them on thyroid. Let's try a little bit and see what happens. And it's really fine to do a trial. Sometimes you need to try things. And most of the time, when the T3 is low like that, when I give them a small amount of thyroid, a T3 comes up, they feel much better.
Mhm.
And so that's something that you can do for yourself. You can say, look, if you check my thyroid, be sure and check a free T3. And I want to know if I have Hashimoto's. So check my thyroid antibodies. Endocrinologists in the United States really don't check the free T3 very often. It's sad, they just don't. It's 6 times more potent than the thyroid makes T4, levothyroxine, and it goes into T3. Endocrinologists don't even check the T3. They just look at the TSH. And we know now that a lot of sick people are put into those reference ranges. So how do we know what's a normal reference range? Well, you check 100 people and you say, okay, the top 10%, now the bottom 10%, those are older people. Those are people who probably have hypothyroidism. And so those numbers are skewed towards a sick number. A lot of sick people or less than well people are in that reference range. So knowing healthy, youthful levels of hormones really has guided me for many years. And I've checked, millions of, I don't know if it's millions, but probably in terms of hormone levels on people to really know what's healthy and what's the reference range and the real reference range, not the reference range from the lab, but what's the real reference range. Like I like the TSH, that's the thyroid brain hormone that calls down to the thyroid to be between 1 and 2, not higher than 2, maybe closer to 1, and the T3 to be at least 3.1 and 3.2.
Okay. So really, it's all about getting that information, seeking those resources such as yourself, but seeking out the books, the references that are now we're seeing coming off the market more and more every day to get that key piece of information that is the most relevant, up-to-date information, and then becoming basically you're building your case for yourself and going to your doctor and saying, okay, now I'm advocating on my behalf, but back it with that credible knowledge.
Absolutely. Knowledge is great. People will give my book to the doctors, or there's a wonderful book also by Avram Blooming, and it's called Estrogen Matters. Do I have it here? Yes. Oh, I have all kinds of books
I
here.
love it. Yes. I'm staring at mine on the bookshelf beside me.
Avram Blooming, how important estrogen is. And even if you have breast cancer, you can most likely take estrogen. And here's Abe Morgenthaler's book.
Of course.
I don't have a copy of my book, but you can download it for free.
And we'll get that in the show notes because it's fantastic. Empowering women. Knowledge is power. And now you're offering it up free. And that is so kind and speaks volumes of the beautiful person you are inside and out.
Thank you.
I do want to talk about a hormone. And I like how we say in Canada is menopause hormone therapy. So try not to hang our hat on that replacement because we're not, we're replenishing. Now, of course, we have estrogen or the estradiol and progesterone. What's the role for testosterone in women? And how do you know if you need to take some testosterone with your hormone therapy?
Very good. So first of all, Abe Morgenthaler, the father of testosterone therapy for men out of Harvard, big, wonderful man, they went in front of the Senate and they tried to convince the United States FDA that testosterone was so critical for women. And I went to one of his symposiums recently back east. I went back east to see him. And they were saying that it was one of the huge scandals in medicine that women's need for testosterone was denied and ignored. So the symptoms of low testosterone are number one, less muscle mass. You're working out, but you just don't have the muscle mass. Number two, bone loss. Testosterone, here's the testosterone that I personally take. I have all these little toppy clickers and I use so many different methods for testosterone. But so building your bone, if you have low bone density, testosterone really helps to build that. It gives confidence. So women who become fearful and not necessarily paranoid, but just more afraid. Women tell me all the time, I'm fearful of driving the freeways. I don't think I can confront that situation. So that's a sign of low testosterone, lack of confidence, more fear. You know how decision making can sometimes be hard?
Mm-hmm.
Do I do this or that? I know in myself that when I wake up and I get dressed and I say, oh, Prudence, that doesn't look good. And I try something else on. That doesn't look good either. It's, oh, Prudence, just measure your friggin' testosterone level. It's low because that's a combination of indecisiveness and doubt and lack of confidence. And so low sex drive.
Okay,
Women
yeah.
all the time that they just don't think much about sex. They can't have the same wonderful orgasms they used to have.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is due to the fact that this builds your muscles in your perineal muscles right at the base of your vagina, between the rectum and the vagina. They contract, and that's what causes an orgasm. So that's why the Kegels exercises and building those muscles help. But menopausal women don't have testosterone for the most part. And so they can't build those muscles and they feel more I would say sexless. Women will tell me, oh, what libido? Zero libido. I'm worried that my husband is really hurting because he wants me all the time and I never want him. So this is the basis of anger that can happen in relationships when women go into menopause, even at 37, 38, around that time, where sex drive can decrease.
My
so
goodness.
you get back and suddenly you feel much different. And you feel sexy and you build muscle and you lose your weight because muscle metabolizes much better than fat does. Fat doesn't metabolize. Men will lose 20 pounds and will lose 2 because they build muscle very fast. And so if you're exercising and they're building big muscles back because their testosterone levels are 700, 900, our testosterone levels are, my healthy range for testosterone is 50 to 100.
Okay.
With some of our American labs, they'll say 2 to 44 is normal. And I'm just going, okay, well, they're measuring older women who have very low testosterone and they consider that normal. Don't balance hormones to an elderly person. Balance it to somebody who's 35, 36, or wherever that person was feeling the most ideal in their life.
But we don't think at that age when we still feel radiant and vitality that to get that hormone checked at that age, it's just something that escapes us. But now that we're talking about it, it seems that we're being able to educate the younger generation to prepare for.
That's great.
Their perimenopause years.
Absolutely. That's great. And perimenopause can start, usually it starts in our mid to late 30s, sometimes in our early 40s. But yeah, it starts pretty young and women just come in and say, you know what? I'm a little bit depressed and I have gained 10 pounds and I have more PMS. PMS is due to low estrogen at the end of it's really not related to, I used to think it was related to progesterone, but it's really related to low estrogen. I just gave a talk. It was so much fun. Do you know the medical medium? Have you ever heard of Anthony William?
Okay, well, I'll have to look this one up.
I gotta look him up. He's just great. Yeah.
Okay.
So he was giving this big rally about a detox, heavy metal detox smoothie that he made. So I was talking about, I gave maybe a 10 or 15, 20-minute talk. And it was so fun just to see how, in a way, this is maybe a little sidetrack here, but it was so fun to see how we can really create a reality in our life. And if we diagnose that our hormones are less and lower, we can really do something about it. And that was what I was talking about is, look, you got to start looking for these symptoms at a young age. Be aware of them. It's not just that you're tired. Something's causing that. It's not just that you're depressed. Something is causing that outside and maybe, but mainly inside probably. And really is on all of these different health issues and is a medical medium. He can some wonderful books and stuff out there also about how to handle your Hashimoto's. I wrote the foreword to his book, Thyroid Healing.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we'll share that.
Hashimoto's and how to detoxify yourself. And
then on the flip side it's Graves' disease. I think if it's Hashimoto would be too low, Graves is too high.
So Graves' disease means it's happening, the thyroid is way too high. So you're
Okay.
shaking, you can't sleep, you're losing rapid weight. You just are going and going. Low thyroid, hypoactive kid, hyperactive kid would be too much.
Yeah.
Hypoactive means we're tired, we sit there, we are overwhelmed by a lot of stuff because we're just too tired. We sleep for 9, maybe 10 hours. We're depressed and feel down and losing our hair. And you want to find out what diseases you have? Start with the hair. Are you losing your hair? That would be perimenopause, menopause, low adrenals, low thyroid,
Oh yeah.
high sugar.
I learned something just about the corners of the eyebrow and then the cracked heels. And I'm thinking, oh girl, better get that thyroid checked. My goodness. And these are things that we just don't think about. This is not in our everyday vernacular that we talk about these things. And this is really important to really do the investigating and the self-diagnosis that you teach in your book. And I love the fact that it's sharing stories because again, and it goes back to what I said at the very beginning, it's in those stories that we relate. There'll be one piece of information. I get her because I am her. And that helps us. It's the brain firing and we have more of a connection.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so important. I think that sometimes we see ourselves less clearly than we see others. So with ourselves, like for example, when I was a full surgeon and doing surgery, I started having these sweats and I started feeling really tired. And I said, oh my God, I have AIDS. I have HIV. Because occasionally you'll get stuck by a needle or something. And I worked with very sick patients at County Hospital. So I did an HIV test, which I do from time to time. I don't do them anymore, but I used to do them when I was doing surgery. And it was negative as God, Prudence, you're in perimenopause at 37. And here I am, a menopausal specialist and expert, and I didn't see it in myself.
We don't
I
see it
did
in
in the
ourselves.
beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so sometimes you could even talk with a friend. Now, are you seeing anything about me that I might not be seeing if they're kind?
Yeah.
But I was
Yeah.
shocked. I didn't, I mean, what because I'm having these night sweats and I was so tired. No, it was perimenopause and low thyroid.
Okay. Now there you mentioned earlier, of course, we can do so much with our diet and our lifestyle changes to have so much more control over the body and how it can gain back some of its vitality with the menopause hormone therapy as a support. What are some of the key pillars when it comes to our lifestyle that we should be considering and incorporating and getting onto them sooner than later?
Yeah, sleep. Number one is sleep.
Sleep.
I'll give you some of my pearls for sleep. So you
Okay.
need 8 hours, even 9 hours. I usually sleep 8 to 9 hours, many times 9 hours. And if I'm traveling abroad and lecturing or something, I come back and I sleep for 12 hours for 3 nights in a row. And I'm a good sleeper. Not everybody's a good sleeper, but melatonin is a brain hormone and it is anti-inflammatory. So it decreases inflammation and it's an antioxidant. Now, oxidation is when you put a nail in the outside and it rusts. So our body can actually rust. We have a lot of iron in our body, a lot of water in there. The red blood cells are filled with iron. So we can actually rust the body. Melatonin helps to decrease that. It also is wonderful for decreasing cancer. So I start patients off on 5 milligrams of melatonin, and then I'll go to 10 or 15 or 20. But I also add GABA, GABA, 500 milligrams. Or I
Okay.
also add 5-HTP, 5-hydroxytryptophan, which is maybe 100 milligrams. And I put it together into, I don't have anything in front of me, but I put it together into this thing called Sweet Sleep. But you don't have to buy my Sweet Sleep. You can also start with melatonin and then maybe go up to 10 milligrams and then add the GABA if you want, then add the 5-HTP. I put a number of other things in the Sweet Sleep, but sleep, number one, really get your sleep. Start with a sleep routine. And that means that you don't get ready for bed just right when you're tired. You get ready for bed 2 hours before. Brush your teeth, do your face, do all that stuff, and take your magnesium glycinate. It's fabulous at sleep. Don't you like it?
Magnesium. I cannot live without magnesium. Again, helps me stay regular. And yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the minerals that's probably the most touted as being helpful. Magnesium glycinate at night. There are other magnesiums that wake you up in the morning, but magnesium glycinate at night, it's any place from 200 to 500 milligrams. The only thing that'll stop you from taking more is diarrhea. So you know, you start low and then you titrate up to the point where you have diarrhea, and then you say, I better cut it back.
I scale back. Interesting. Actually, I was taking magnesium and then I started on L-threonate, theonate. And there's so many of them. That would be a cheat sheet right there on its own, which does what? But does it really matter? Or we will definitely share that glycinate is the best before bed.
Glycinate, yeah. Glycinate. Yeah, the glycinate. Okay, so you sleep and you eat well. So plant-based diet, that means eggs are not plants. Certainly having a couple of eggs in the morning is not going to raise your cholesterol. And it's a way to avoid some of that glycemic, meaning high sugar foods that we eat, like cereals and bread and pastries, all of that kind of stuff, muffins. So I wake up and I have 2 eggs. I use these tortillas called siete tortillas, but they're all kinds of tortillas that don't have corn in them, because corn is pretty glycemic, pretty sugary. But you can get chickpea or you can get almond flour, and then you put the eggs in. I do 2 of these tortillas, 1 egg in there, 1 egg in there. I put avocado in there, bump, chuck it down. So that's a good breakfast. Berries are also a low glycemic breakfast. Blueberries are a little higher glycemic, but raspberries, blackberries, strawberries, some blueberries too. And a spoonful of I eat a little bit of sheep's yogurt. I don't do well with regular dairy, but some sheep's yogurt. And then you can put in flax seeds and almonds and things like that. And you really can have the probiotic that comes from a little bit of the yogurt, plus these low glycemic things, plus nuts. And you want to have 7, 8 things in with your breakfast. That comes from Tim Spector, who's Zoe. He has a huge dietary. Yeah. So he says 7 things. And I was like, darn right, 7 things. So you can do that. And then for lunch, you have a big salad and good amounts of olive oil. Be very careful about your fats. Good amounts of olive oil, good amounts of avocado oil. Those are all healthy. Obviously, I think everybody knows now, stay away from safflower oil and sunflower oil. And,
right.
Coconut oil, a little bit, that's fine. A little bit is fine. I'll cook with that sometimes. And then wild fish. Please don't eat the farm fish. It's so toxic. But wild fish, especially like wild Alaskan salmon, something, you're right up in that area.
We had fish last night, still had,
pasture-raised chickens, maybe, or a little bit of meat. It's fine. I have a lot of green meals. I'll cook broccoli and Brussels sprouts, and beans are great. You want to lose weight? Have a half a cup of beans 15 minutes before you have a meal and drink 8 ounces of water with it. And this diet, I call it the darn bean diet. It's just the fiber that fills you up and that makes you not crave so much sugar. So just no sugar. Just don't eat any sugar. I think one of the great luminaries in health is at USC. That's my alma mater, and his name is Walter Longo.
Okay.
And he says, look, you can eat 85% chocolate. That's good. It's a superfood. And indeed, chocolate is a superfood. So 85% chocolate. I'll put some nuts in a little bowl and I'll break up all these little pieces of chocolate, and there's a little sugar in it. But if you eat the nuts, fiber, if you eat fiber with sugar, like the reason why beans are so great to eat, all kinds of beans, is that there's so much fiber in them. There's 6 grams of fiber per half a cup. So you're filling yourself up, and fiber decreases colon cancer and it soaks up your cholesterol. I think that the black beans, for example, even have more protein than meat.
Yeah, there's a lot of food rich in the protein, but having those good source proteins to maintain the muscles. Okay, so we covered the sleep, a good diet, exercise, or some people like the word movement instead of exercise. So because exercises can be daunting.
It's a beautiful thing, moving your body. That's it. That's concept and a little bit less intimidating than exercise. I like Pilates because I get to really stretch and move, and high intensity intervals. So you're taking a walk and you say, okay, for 12 minutes, I'll do 30 seconds of high intensive running. And in 90 seconds, I'm going to just walk. And you do that with 3 minutes of high intensity exercise. That's 6 reps like this. It's only 3 minutes of high intensity exercise. So it's not going to hurt your adrenals, like running will do. And oh my God, it really gets things going. So that's a good form of exercise. You're just strolling along and walking, and then you do your bursting. And I have my phone, and I know that each 2 minutes, that's 1 rep. So 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes, 12 minutes, I'm done.
Right.
Yoga, beautiful. Going online, doing your stomach exercises for 10 minutes, 3 times a week. Plus, there's so many things online now where you just for
Of
10 minutes,
course.
2 minutes.
And that's the key. And I'm glad you said that. It doesn't have to be long periods of exercise. These shorter bursts, and maybe even just a couple during the day, are actually probably better overall, because we want to keep that cortisol level down lower, because the inflammatory effects of that stress hormone stay. Yeah.
Avoiding toxicity, eliminating certain foods that you really think are upsetting your stomach or upsetting you. Like some people eat, when I eat gluten, I found out that I had 2 genes that were not good for gluten. This is probably now 25 years ago, 30 years ago that I found that out. But I'll get gas and bloating and I'll feel like more tired. So the elimination diet, you just eliminate gluten, dairy, eggs, corn, soy, maybe nightshades. And then you do that for 2 weeks. So that means you're eating none of those things. And you add one back. You say, okay, let's have a bunch of dairy. And you have a whole bunch of dairy for a couple of days. And then you say, God, the headaches are there and my body hurts.
Mhm.
Then you say, oh, okay, I shouldn't eat that very much. Either eliminate it or just eat a little bit of it, maybe 3 times a week, 2 times a week, something like that. And then you find out what you're intolerant to. That's better even than these immune tests for food allergies.
That's a very good point, is just be aware, take a note, whether you're writing it down or just mentally checking it to yourself. I don't like how I felt when I had that food. And case in point, just the other night, we went out to a restaurant. Unfortunately, it's a beautiful resort, but the staff was low. The chef was run off his feet. It wasn't a good meal. So I sent it back. We ended up going back to our trailer. We were glamping. And I ended up having I grabbed a quick flour wrap and I slapped on some peanut butter with it. And the next morning I had the cramps and the headaches. And I knew it because it wasn't a high fiber, a high protein meal. It was mostly sugar and white bread, and there was nothing really all that nutritional value to it. Okay, another lesson learned, but pay attention to that. And that's what I think, that we need to almost wake up to that and stop blaming it. Oh, it must be the stress of the day. So I ate a bag of corn chips, but it must be the stress of the day that's causing me this heartburn. So it's really becoming the wise women that we're supposed to be by paying attention to making those mental notes.
And finding things that give you pleasure. There's always alternatives to things that are not so good for you, and finding things that really work well for you in terms of snacks. I don't know, celery, carrots. I have hard-boiled eggs because a lot of times I'll make a shake in the morning, a sprouted almond shake that I make myself. I make the almond milk myself, but with some very pure protein and very pure. So sometimes I just have hard-boiled eggs, and I'm at my computer. Most of my work is really done remotely because people are from all around the world. So I'm sitting here at my computer and it's just, they didn't even see it on the video that I ate an egg. So it's making sure that you don't become starving and forget to eat, because then you'll eat anything. And making sure intermittent fasting is good. And basically intermittent fasting means you have your dinner at 7 and you have your breakfast at 7 or 8, 12 hours. That's what Walter Longo suggests. He says, unless you really are under a doctor's supervision, then you can go 14, 16, 18 hours. But that, to start with, just do dinner at 7, breakfast at 7 or 8.
Yeah, just closing that eating window so that your body has that time to digest. I'm a true believer in that too. That time restricted eating. I like to eat in that window, and then I'm playing around 14 hours, and that makes me comfortable.
That's perfect.
Yeah, but I'm glad you said about the protein, because that is one thing that we need to. It's a slow drip. It's not like a fire forget, get 6 eggs in the morning and then just have whatever the rest of the day, because that protein intake has to be throughout the day for optimal performance, keep the brain sharp, keep fueling the body, because those muscles want to just keep fuel. Otherwise, it'll steal. The sugar will go to the fat. The muscles won't use it if it's not getting properly fed. It's going to go.
Goes to fat.
Wait a second, but I starved myself. But it doesn't work that way. And that's the mentality that, again, an old mentality that came out of, I don't know where it was. We all grew up, young kids in 70s and 80s, thinking, stop, so you can get into your skinny jeans. And we were doing more damage to our bodies.
I remember once I was living in Spain with my family for a year, and I was 16 and I thought I was fat. I had this sort of 16-year-old thing that I thought I was fat. So I said, okay, I'm going to lose weight. So there was a diet where you just drank oil.
Oh,
And I did that for about 6 months. I made sure that I was drinking probably a fourth of a cup of oil 3 times a day. I was also eating, but it was amazing how that fat, and I'm not in favor of the keto diet. It has its benefits. It definitely has its benefits. But this was just me as a young kid experimenting. And I probably lost the 15 pounds that I had from puberty and from going through that big growth spurt. And so healthy fat in your diet, it doesn't turn into cholesterol, it doesn't turn into fat. It's the sugar that turns into the fat, the carbohydrates, rice, pasta, bread, crackers, cereal, potatoes. That turns into fat.
yes. The evil whites, I call them.
That's good.
Tell us about
Being
your 10-week program. You were saying that you work online. And so people around the world, even my listeners who are tuning in, how can they get on your 10-week program? What can they expect?
What I do is I balance everybody's hormones during that 10-week period. And I talk, first of all, about their goals. And there are 15 people. I keep it small. It's always the same people. We record it so people can listen to it. And it's about individualizing your hormones. So my daughter works with me in this. Her name is Dr. Britton, and she does 2 individual consults with the people during that consult so we can make it legal and actually do this and actually prescribe hormones. I give away a bunch of my body software. I have a little bit here. I guess this is the only one just because this is mega adrenal. So it's a really wonderful supplement for adrenal fatigue. And I give away a bunch of stuff. And so we go through the ovarian hormones and menopause. And women get to tell their stories and feel support. And you're not alone. This is a huge feeling in menopause that we're alone and isolated. And so, there's real group support and group wisdom. I mean, my wisdom is good, but you add that to another 15 women. Oh my God, we're cooking. And then the thyroid and looking at all the thyroid symptoms. And then there's the adrenals. So each week we do something different. And then there's obviously time for diet and exercise. And we start making each other accountable, and people are holding their phones and walking and doing this stuff together. Okay, you're in Canada, you want to meet at 4 and go out for a walk, and it's really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so you end up with hormones that are really much, much healthier, almost balanced. It's hard to balance everything in 10 weeks and bring it back to youthful levels, but it's a huge start. And there's really a place for women, have women's circles, like with fertility. If you meet in a support group, and this is much more than a support group, we're going to get this job done for everybody. We're going to do it. You're going to know your hormones. You're going to know everything about the hormones, and we're going to balance them too. But like just in fertility, if you're in a support group with a professional person, you have 40% more chance of conceiving than if you're just working alone with a practitioner. You look at AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I have many patients who have been formerly addicted, and that support group is phenomenal for people. Much better success than just saying, okay, I'm not going to drink. So I believe in mutual support and the benefits that can arise from that for all of our good.
Absolutely. And sharing our stories. I love that.
Sharing the stories.
Oh, Dr. Prudence Hall, I'm going to get all your links in our show notes where people can find you. This has been delightful. Thank you for sharing your story, your wisdom, your beautiful energy. I've become a super fan.
I'm a fan of yours. I was looking at all your podcasts before, and it's just like, this is really a beautiful expression of who you are.
Thank you. Sharing knowledge is power, but a wise woman knows how to apply that knowledge.
Our highest expression of ourselves in the positive way.
Oh, we could talk about the spiritual side. Another episode. I'm a true believer of that. The intersection of science and spirituality. You're talking my language.
I look forward to interviewing you. I hope we can do that.
Oh, I would love that. Thank you for giving your time and your energy.
Thank you so much.
So much wisdom, so much knowledge in this interview. I knew my conversation with Dr. Prudence Hall would be enlightening, packed full of great advice. Here are my key takeaways from today's episode. Number 1, hormones and their impact on our health. Imbalanced hormones, which happen with menopause, include inflammation and stress. and these all significantly affect our health. Menopause correlates with an increased risk of heart disease and other issues. Addressing the root cause of health issues is crucial for effective disease prevention and, of course, symptom management. Number 2, hormone balancing and self-advocacy. So important to evaluate our hormone levels, particularly the thyroid, T3, and adrenal function to manage these imbalances. Advocate for yourself. If you feel that you're not getting the attention you need, insist, have that difficult conversation with your doctor and help him or her understand it is your quality of life. These tests are available, so ask for them. Number 3, hormone therapy and testosterone. There's more and more research coming out with particular attention to the role of testosterone. Symptoms of low testosterone include reduced muscle mass, bone density, decision-making ability, libido, and confidence. If you feel that you are low and experiencing these symptoms, again, speak with your doctor and ask for those tests. Number 4, the importance of sleep. Adequate sleep, about 8 to 9 hours, is essential for health. Melatonin can help, and it is a hormone therapy, as is estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Again, speak to your doctor if it's a solution for you. Other recommended supplements for better sleep include GABA, 5-HTP, and magnesium glycinate. Number 5, lifestyle through food and dietary recommendations. Dr. Hall emphasized healthy fats, wild fish, green vegetables, and beans, and how low glycemic foods for breakfast are so important for weight management as well as sugar reduction. In our conversation too, we emphasize the importance of protein intake, building blocks for muscles, which is more metabolically active than fat. And we also talked about the importance of time-restricted eating. And we talked about the benefits of chocolate. And it is that season where there's more and more chocolate to be had. But aim for that rich, dark 85% chocolate for the best benefits. And then finally, number 6, exercise and movement. Benefits of incorporating short bursts of high-intensity exercise into our daily routine is so helpful for cardiovascular health. And shorter bursts also help keep our cortisol levels low, which is essential for overall well-being. You can find Dr. Prudence Hall on her website, drprudencehall.com. From there, you can download her book, Radiant Again and Forever. It's completely free. Tips and tricks to overcome menopause and restore your radiance. And you can also find Dr. Prudence Hall on Instagram, Dr. Prudence Hall. I'll have all those links in the show notes, including the books that were referenced in this episode. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Menopause Disruptor podcast. I'm your host, Mary Lee, and you can find me on Instagram at m_l_coaching. That is ML spelt phonically. M or is a German term for universal, and L is a Greek Hebrew term for feminine. And what could be more femininely universal than the menopause transition? If you are enjoying these episodes, be sure to share it with a friend. You can also support the show and consider leaving a review on Apple. Your feedback helps reach more women to join in this conversation. So until next time, remember, midlife should be the best life, and it will be. Namaste.